kindly join me in welcoming our Honorable Chief Guest, Shri Arun Jaitley ji, Honorable Minister of Finance, Corporate Affairs and Information and Broadcasting. May I request the dignitaries on the stage to kindly come and light the lamp. I humbly request our Honorable Chief Guest, Shri Arun Jaitley ji, respected Chancellor, Shri Ram Bahadur Rai ji, Honorable Managing Trustee, Shri Manmohan Singh Chawla ji, respected Chairperson, Srimati Madhupreet Kaur Chawla, respected Member Governing Body, Shri R.K. Bhatia, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Shamlal Singla, Honorable Pro-Chancellor, Dr. T.D. Dogra, and Pro-Vice Chancellor, Dr. Dalip Singh, to kindly do the honours. Thank you, sir. May I now request the Honorable Chief Guest to kindly release the souvenir.
I declare the convocation open.
Dr. Deepak Yadav, Dr. Sonakshi Vij, Dr. Vishesh Yadav, Dr. Neha Khanna, Dr. Seema Basoya, Dr. Anshum Datta, Dr. Taruna Batra, Dr. Jitendra Kumar, Dr. Vimanyu Kataria, Dr. Krishna Kishore, Dr. Ripan Das, Dr. Ishant Singhal. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Shri Arun Jaitley, Honorable Union Minister of Finance, Corporate Affairs and Information and Broadcasting. Thank you.
Chancellor of the HGT University, Shri Ram Bahadur Rai, Professor Singla, Dr. Dogra, the Managing Trustee Shri Chawla, other distinguished gentlemen in the dais, members of the teaching faculty, students and other dignitaries. Let me at the very outset thank Shri Chawla and the SGT University for inviting me to this annual convocation. It's always a pleasure to be in these universities because you come across an aspirational India, people who are studying, those who are about to pass out and launch on to a career graph of their own. For me, it's particularly a great experience because I have known the Managing Trustee Shri Chawla even before he embarked upon this very adventurous venture of establishing a university. They've honored two very important dignitaries today. Professor Mohanlal is a household name in the educational field of Delhi. Even at this elderly age, he is as committed to his cause as he was decades ago when he was a teacher in a university college and then the principal of one of the most important colleges of Delhi University. And he still, despite his gaining years, continues to serve the cause which is so dear to his heart. Sri Taneja could not have put his retired life to a better use. One of the lesser known facts is that he runs and administers one of the best academic centers which prepares people for the civil services. He almost runs it on a non-commercial venture. He trains people, he educates them, he folds their mind. He makes them proud nationalist Indians. And his strike rate of success in getting them elected to the civil services is almost unprecedented. I can also share that the Faculty of Law here is headed by Professor Rajiv Khanna, and I had the privilege of being taught by him when I studied at the Faculty of Law myself. As a good professor never retires, Professor Khanna, he was then a young lecturer, and post his retirement from Delhi University as the Dean, he is using his energies quite constructively and fruitfully. I have just 2-3 very brief points to make. I think there is an explosion of institutions of this kind taking place in India. There was a flawed structural model where we thought that it's only the responsibility of governments to run institutions. Now, governments had to choose between how to spend their monies, and the government resources were always limited. As a result, in the decade of the 1980s, we found that the expansion of higher educational institutions had considerably slowed down. It's then that we took the bold step of allowing private universities, private colleges, and of course these have their own challenges. But where it has helped us in the process is that competition between educational institutions has increased. Now each one of them are being rated, and each one of them is competing to reach the very top of that rating calendar. And that's not a new experiment in India. If you go to some of the institutions internationally, some of the best universities in the United States, most of them are privately administered and run institutions. They have huge corpuses and donations which come from their alumni. That's a system we have still not started very successfully in India. I am told some of the IITs have started that. And as a result of which, the network of quality educational institutions has hugely expanded in those countries. Where it has helped us is that it has created, in most courses, except I'm told in the medical course, in most courses it has created surplus capacities. And the advantage of having surplus capacities is that fee structures will have to become more competitive, because otherwise seats will remain vacant. Capitation will come down and eventually disappear. Institution will compete for being the very best, otherwise they'll be thrown out of business. And you will also have a huge amount of human resource being produced by these institutions. Recent studies have shown that just as having a monetary resource or oil or mineral or commodities is an economic resource, the human mind is also a big economic resource. And in a highly populated country like India, it is this human resource which we need to train and convert into a national asset. Now, studies are showing that amongst the developed countries in the United States, the American continent and European continent, populations are not only stabilizing but actually coming down. And when populations actually come down, for a couple of two people, the replacement has to be by two. In most of those countries, the replacement is not by two. It is much less. And the size of their economies is so large that to manage those economies, they need human resource. In India, it's still the opposite. We had earlier fixed 2026 as the year when our population will stabilize. Even that looks a distant dream. And therefore, with surplus population, we have not only our own economic system to administer. You'll need more engineers, more scientists, more doctors, more teachers, more nurses. But you will also be an important manpower supplier to the world. And being a manpower supplier at a time when we were still not even a developing economy, we were all worried that we train human minds and they go away. But today we are a human resource supplier to most countries in the world. In fact, you must be now seeing over the last 2 years when the Prime Minister visits internationally, the size of the Indian diaspora with every year virtually is increasing. And the economic rationale behind it is that we are producing more people, we are producing more trained minds. And therefore, in those economies, Indians are seen in much larger numbers. And therefore, if you have a sense of pride being generated by a leader of being an Indian, his ability to then demonstrate the strength of India in those countries is apparent. I had last year in the month of March an opportunity along with the British Prime Minister to unveil Gandhiji's statue at the Parliament Square in London. And I could actually see that despite the old discomfort that they had, merely because the size of the Indian diaspora was so large and the enthusiasm about India was so great that they had to put Gandhi carved in stone right next to Winston Churchill's statue. So that's really the power of the human resource which we are generating. And my basic point always has been that governments don't have those kind of resources to train these human minds. And therefore, private sector resources getting into construction of such beautiful campuses, competing with each other, trying for the very best, making them more attractive, getting better staff, paying the staff a little more in order to attract them. I think this is going to be an important future. And I think setting up of universities and campuses of this kind, therefore, is something which needs to be highly encouraged. It's an entrepreneurial effort, but it's an effort which is not only a business venture, because in the initial decades, you are only investing in expansion. You are not really earning profit out of it. And it's the larger welfare of the society that you are able to create. A brief message just for those who are passing out and those who've got degrees today. You stand at an important crossroad of your life. And when you stand at the important crossroad of your life, you take off your careers from now onwards. This is a very important junction where you have an important decision to make. We've now reached a situation whether it's industry or it's management or it's technology, which family and background you come from, it doesn't really matter. It used to matter in politics, even now that relevance is going down. If you just analyze which are the great business houses today, and if you look back at their list pre-1991, most of them, those who existed in the pre-1991 scenario, existed with a lot of government patronage. But when we deregulated our economy, today the fittest survives. And therefore, even in industry, you will find the best values are those who've been recently born. And at this junction, when you are passing out, some of you may decide to do still higher super specializations or otherwise, but you'll have to make a conscious decision. There is a lot of crowd in which you are going to get lost. But in every career, in every profession, the crowding is really at the bottom. And there's a huge crowding at the bottom. There is always a space on top. As you move up in terms of excellence, you'll find more and more space available on top. And therefore, the decision you really have to take is, are you getting into that crowd and become one of the many in that crowd and be unnoticed? Or are you going to strive for those exemplary levels of excellence and be noted as somebody out of the ordinary? And that will depend on whether, while initiating your career, you follow the ritual or the routine, or you put in a little extra. It's almost like a sprint. And therefore, you have to decide to be on the fast track. And to be on the fast track, you'll have to take a decision right now. So those who take the fast track by the time you are in your mid-30s, the age of excellence is now coming down. The world calls it that the days of the grey eminence are over. You become great only when your hair turns grey. It's no longer the position. The best surgeons amongst the doctors are in their 30s. The best lawyers find their space in their 30s. The best scientists excel at that age. The CEOs are of that age. The newspaper editors are no longer 60. They retire, they become columnists at the age of 60. And therefore, that age of excellence also is coming down. So these initial 10, 15 years of your life will determine whether you are lost in the crowd or you are in the fast track and you find yourself right on top. And you'll find some of you, amongst you, being able to reach to that destination. And that's a decision you'll have to take right now. And I'm sure your parents, your families have struggled to join their resources in order to send you to a good institution. How to make the best out of that education is a challenge to all of you. The staff members who've been here, and I think teaching is one of the most dedicated professions. They do a human service to the society. They keep educating themselves and keep converting human minds into great minds. And I think it's the resource of those great teachers that has really contributed to your standing where you are. And I'm sure you will, in the course of the career, strive for being the very best. My particular gratitude to Shri Chawla, Shri Ram Bahadur Rai and all their colleagues for having invited me. I'm sure it's a new institution. It's begun well, but well begun is half done. And I'm sure in future, if I have an opportunity to come again, I'll probably see these 13 courses into 30 courses and far more buildings with more and more land and better students that you have produced. Thank you very much and wish you all the very best.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words of wisdom. We hope and pray that the SGTians definitely carve a niche for themselves at the top.